Hey everybody, JG1 Luftrooter here with a short video about installing and using the CH Control Manager. Had a request from J2 Adam for this, and I thought I'd better get it out there. So the first thing you're going to need to do is to find the program. So I just did a Google search online, and I came up with this URL here. And you can have a good look at that. It's just the CH products page, and you have the icon for the installer right here. So if you click on that, it's going to download it, and you're going to see it down here. And what I do is I just click there and go to show in folder, and it'll go to your downloads folder. So before you go any further from this part, it's important to know that you have your CH devices connected to Windows and working. They don't have to be calibrated, but they do need to be connected before you run the installer. That is stated in a README file, which actually you don't see until you run the installer, so it's kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. But what I will do, I'll show it to you here real quick. CH products, and right here it is. And of course this will be in your folder after the install. But it talks a lot about the installation, and of course it makes that point that I just did about making sure your controllers are installed. So what I will do is I will attach this text file to my message that I post this on the forum, so that you can read this before you do the installation and get a lot of good information. And keep in mind that this is basically, a lot of this is talking about using a CD, to install, which you are not going to be doing. You're going to have the latest self-installer. So some of these things aren't likely to happen, but it's good to read it in case you do run into a question while you're doing it, and this will explain it. So that's where that is. So let's go back to our download. So obviously you have your controllers connected, and all you have to do, you can run it right from here. So you double click it, and of course it's going to use the installer wizard to install the program on your folder. Now it says version 4.55 here, whereas the installer says it's version 4.55a. All I know is that the version I have is 4.55 and it works great, so I don't think you'll have a problem with whatever this is. So obviously you would just hit next and it will install the files, and then you should be able to go from there. And hopefully it will have a desktop icon. I'm pretty sure it will. I don't have one because I don't really use it that often, but it should be on your desktop, and so you're able to start up the control manager. So I'm just going to cancel this and close this out. So you're going to run your program from your icon. For me, I'm going to start it up from my start menu, which I have a shortcut here for it. You can do this just by right clicking on it, and when it's on your desktop, and tell it to pin to start menu. And you could even pin it to your taskbar if you needed to. But I will do this, and you'll see it tells you the version here and here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is calibration. As you can see, even if there's no map loaded or anything, you see your devices here in the default mapped mode. Now you will see over here the test calibrate button. If you operate that button, you will see in the list, it doesn't specifically say what the devices are. This is because they're in a mapped mode, and some of the buttons are going to act the way they're programmed to act. So if you choose one of these and then you hit OK, you'll notice it says test only. And this one is my joystick, so I can move it. You'll see it respond. The numbers on the lower right go from 0 to 255. But you can test some of the buttons. If they're in DirectX mode, they will show up here. But if you have a button, I'm clicking one right now, that is programmed, it will not. So basically, you cannot calibrate your stick in this configuration. So it's okay to test, but so what you do, get rid of that. We have to change our mode to direct mode, which would be like if it was just in Windows only without any kind of programming. So we do that, and you'll hear your devices disconnect. And now when we go to the test calibrate feature, we see the devices listed by their name. So you just click on the one you want to calibrate, hit OK, and now you'll see that it says test calibrate, and you can just test it here. Do all of the things that we did before. We got our throttle wheel is showing here, things like that. But if you want to calibrate it, you just click on that and it tells you what to do. Now you'll notice that it says click a controller button or the click button below. Well, it's good to use the controller button when you're holding the control in a position. When you are clicking for the center position, you want to make sure the stick is centered, so you want to take your hand off of it and let it center itself, and then you can use this down here, and it's a better way of doing it. So I'm just going to use the trigger. You go full left, click it, then it says full right, click it again, full forward, click, and full back. Now it's saying move to center position, so I'm going to let it center itself and click here. Now it says throttle wheel fully forward, and I did that backwards. So at this point you would hit apply, and all of these numbers would be applied to the calibration. And now when you go into Rise of Flight, I'm not going to apply it because I messed up. I should have had it back when it was supposed to be forward, but I'm going to cancel that. And I'm going to say done. Now, of course, you could do this to your other device too. It works for throttle, quadrant, or whatever. And it's a similar procedure. You just hit calibrate. I'm just going to show how the buttons work for each axis. You can check them. You see that they're working. And that's all there is to it. So now you can put it back to mapped mode. And even if you haven't made a map, it'll be calibrated. That's the bottom line. So now if you have a map to load, you won't have one initially, but there will be a default thing. So it'll basically just have all the buttons in DirectX mode. So you would just have the default map, not this one, and you would say open, and then you'll notice that this now becomes active, and you click on it and you see it's downloading it to the stick, and it tells you that it's completed successfully. So we can now close this, and if we go into Rise of Flight, What you want to do is go to the responses curves inside Rise of Flight. So I'm going to go down here, going to go to responses, and any airplane, I'm not going to use the all planes, but Fokker DR1. So what you see is now my stick is right in the middle, 0, 0 when I release it. And if for this axis, it's roll, so I'll just do left and right now. I push it fully one way, and you see that it goes to 100%. Sometimes it might say 99, but actually, as you can see, what this is doing is it's not following the curve. And this is something that Rise of Flight does. What you can do, it's kind of looking at the last one it looked at, so you just go to something that's linear, like the throttle or mixture or anything. And you'll have a thing, you can change anything on there, like symmetry or something that's not really going to see, but now you'll see that down here it becomes active. So I'm just going to go ahead and re-click it. I don't really want to change anything, but I can now hit apply. And if I go back to the roll axis and move it, you will see it is now following the curve. It doesn't keep it from working in the game, it's just for what you're seeing here. So what we have is the red dot is your actual control movement. So you want to see that it goes to 100% each way. And of course, the white dot is the game response for it. If you see it falling short on one side and getting there too fast and you're still pushing it the other way, then you know your stick isn't properly calibrated. It should always act like this for any axis. Same thing for your pedals. I'm going to move them as this is yaw has a for this plane I actually have it with more faster response on the left pedal, so you'll see that the white dot arrives before the red one, and on the other side they just stay the same. It's completely linear, so it works the way it should. But the main thing is that red dot is going from 100% to 100%, and it's in the middle when I release. And that's basically it for what you should have after you calibrate your devices.